In this video, I'm going to expose what actually drives the crypto market, what makes it go up and down, and also the things that you need to do to become successful in today's markets. Crypto is a very volatile space, as you know, but it is very predictable, and there are some strategies that you need to deploy. So let's dive into it. First and foremost, let's look at the state of the current market. So right now is September, and as you guys know, September is historically the worst month for both Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. As you can see in the past day, according to Crypto Bubbles, we are basically all in the red, right? Past week, mostly in the red, and past month, about half of your coins are in the red. Now, what does that mean for you, right? What exactly should you be doing during this time? Well, now is the time to stay composed, and there's 4 things that you need to understand that will help you succeed in crypto, and I've talked about this in a lot of my previous videos, but number 1 is Bitcoin dominance, right? Understanding how Bitcoin dominance affects the markets. Number 2 is buying the narratives, and number 3 is patience, right? This is the one I want to talk about today. Patience in today's market is so important, right? Patience is crucial for your success in crypto. And what do I mean by patience, right? Well, patience includes 3 things. One is not panic selling, right? Having the composure, having the understanding to not sell when things are in the red, and to kind of train your brain to think opposite of what our psychology tells us to do. Humans are very prone to panicking, right? That is how our brain is wired, right? It's kind of the fight or flight response, right? Whenever we see danger, whenever we see red, that's when we want to get the hell out of there. That's when we want to leave and basically protect our assets, right? And that is why we panic sell, right? Whenever we see our asset down 20, 30%, 40%, right? The first instinct for us is to protect, right? Protect what we have, get out of there, right? And come back at a later date, but we just need to gather all of our resources and protect it, right? That is what our brain tells us to do. But you need to understand something. In order to win in crypto, you need to actually rewire how you think. In fact, in order to be successful in any type of investing, you need to rewire your brain to think this way. So crypto is honestly a very good practice for when you actually invest in much safer assets, right? Whenever you go through a full crypto cycle, right? Investing in stocks, investing in ETFs, that is going to be a piece of cake compared to what you will experience in this crypto markets. So no panic selling. You need to rewire your brain to think positively. Number 2 is reassess your portfolio allocation. So let's say you have 10 coins, you need to reassess, okay, which of these coins are actually giving me the best returns? Which of these coins are actually going to be the ones I end up holding throughout the bull run? And maybe you consolidate it to 5, right? I think consolidation is one of the best things you can do to your portfolio. So understanding, what do I need to reallocate? Me personally, right? I actually allocated more of my portfolio to Bitcoin and Ethereum during this past dip. Now, why did I do that? One is to build in a safety net, right? I know that Bitcoin and Ethereum are relatively safer compared to a lot of these other cryptos that are more volatile, right? So I took profit on some of my more volatile coins and I reinvested into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the third thing is DCA, right? Dollar cost average. Whenever you get dips like these are opportunities, right? You need to rewire your brain to think of them as opportunities rather than disappointments. So these are the 3 things that you need to understand for patience. You also need to understand that right now we are in the buy zone, right? This is something that not a lot of people bring up, but according to this logarithmic chart, right? This is the logarithmic chart of Bitcoin for the past 10 plus years. And as you can see, every single time we dip down into this green and into this bluish green area, that is the perfect opportunity to buy. Historically, this has been the perfect zone to buy for every single cycle, right? Every single cycle since 2012. Whenever we hit this green to this blue, that's when we accumulate and buy, and that's when Bitcoin is on a fire sale. And right now, where are we? We're in this kind of bluish green area, so that is the buy zone, right? That is the buy zone. And we sell whenever Bitcoin hits this orange to this red area. As you can see, that is where the top has been historically for Bitcoin. So looking at the cycle right now, we are still well below 100K. We're still well in the green, right? We're actually dipping back down closer to the blue. We are much closer to this fire sale category than to this bubble category, right? Despite what a lot of people are telling you, despite what the media is telling you, right, about how Bitcoin is at an all-time high, right? Maybe now is the end of the bull run. We are nowhere near this bubble territory. We are still way in the green. We are still in a massive opportunity phase. And speaking of opportunity, there are so many catalysts coming up that will push Bitcoin from this green zone all the way into this yellow, orange, and eventually red, right? There's so many catalysts, and the first of these catalysts is the election. So historically, the election has driven Bitcoin prices up immediately after the election ends. So this pink zone is basically the election time for the past 4 elections. And as you can see, every single time we get an election end, so every single time we get kind of this area, this area, and now eventually this area, after the election ends, that is when we see a massive rise in the price of Bitcoin. You can see this happened in 2012, right? We saw this. 2017, we saw this. And 2021, we saw this, right? And I believe this year will be no different. Right now, we are basically in this area. So this chart is a little bit outdated, but as you can see, we're right here. So in around January of 2025, that is when kind of this line ends, and that is when we eventually go back up again for Bitcoin. So this is just a chart to keep in mind, right? You don't have to use this chart to predict exactly when Bitcoin is going to rise, but this just gives you a good idea of the past histories of how elections impact Bitcoin. And as you can see from this chart, right, we are in a good spot right now. This is still a point of accumulation, and Bitcoin is nowhere near where it eventually will end up. Another catalyst I want to talk about, and this catalyst is actually more interesting, and quite frankly, this catalyst is not talked about enough, and it is the correlation between Bitcoin and global liquidity. Now, what is global liquidity? Well, global liquidity in simple terms is how much buying power do actors in the market actually have during this time. Basically refers to the amount of money supply that can be put into the markets. And as you can see, Bitcoin is directly correlated to global liquidity, right? So this orange line, I believe, is the price of Bitcoin, and then this blue line is global liquidity. You can see it's basically almost a direct correlation. And why is this important? Well, global liquidity is about to rise, right? Right now, global liquidity is sitting all the way down here. Global liquidity is cyclical, so it has its ebbs and flows. But whenever global liquidity has these ebbs and flows, it correlates directly to Bitcoin. And right now, you can see global liquidity is at this bottom area. And in 2025, it is going to go up. And when it does go up, it's going to follow what Bitcoin does, or Bitcoin rather is going to follow what global liquidity does, which means that Bitcoin will go up as well. So Bitcoin and crypto will rise with global liquidity. Well, why does this happen, right? Why is Bitcoin and crypto correlated to global liquidity? Why does global liquidity increase the prices? Well, these are the reasons. So first and foremost, an increased availability of capital. So whenever global liquidity rises, right, that means there's more money circulating in the markets. That means there's more buying power for financial institutions to inject into the markets. A lot of financial institutions inject it into Bitcoin because not only is it an inflation hedge, as you can see right here, but institutions like injecting money into speculative and risky assets during these times. And why? Because there is much lower interest rates. It is easier to borrow money, right? All of this is correlated together, right? In order to be successful in crypto, you need to understand economics. The fact that Bitcoin has a low supply means that it is basically the perfect asset to invest in during times of low interest rate, right? When you can borrow a lot of money without paying much interest, when there's high inflation, right? Whenever liquidity rises, there's a risk of inflation. So Bitcoin is one of the best hedges against inflation. And also the fact that there's so much capital, financial institutions can afford to buy these risky assets. This is the stuff a lot of people don't talk about. I believe that everyone should understand, at least at the surface level, what all of this means, right? And how this actually impacts the markets, because Bitcoin doesn't just go up and down randomly, right? And it also doesn't just go up and down because it's locked on a 4-year cycle. These factors right here directly correlate to Bitcoin, right? It's not just because it's some magical 4-year cycle, it's because of this. It's because of these factors. So make sure to screenshot this and understand this, right? Study global liquidity, study interest rates, study inflation, study all of this, study major financial institutions and how they operate, because this will open your eyes to how crypto actually operates and how investing in general is cyclical. And with all of this said, I want to give my prediction to when we will see a Bitcoin all-time high. And in my opinion, it's going to be late 2024 to early 2025. So the election is in November. So expect maybe December to be the start of a Bitcoin rally potentially, and maybe early 2025. So maybe February, March, April to be when we see kind of that top. And altcoin season is going to be right after that. So whenever we see that fall in Bitcoin dominance, whenever Bitcoin kind of slows down in its growth and you see a lot of your altcoins start taking off and, you know, see your altcoins doing a 5, 10x, 20x, that is when you know for a fact altcoin season is beginning. And this is just my prediction, guys. I can be completely wrong with this. There's no way to predict exactly when things will happen, right? Exactly when Bitcoin will hit its all-time high. But based on some of these factors, right? Based on global liquidity, based on the presence of the election, right? Based on this graph right here, based on September being historically the worst month for crypto, based on all of these things, we can make assumptions, and the assumption that I'm making is this. So hope you guys enjoy the video, right? Let me know if you like more videos like this, right? Let me know if you like this style, and I will see you guys in the next one.